I met with the lady. She is intelligent, obviously. She is also here in person. She does have the ability and availability to look at evidence in person where it's easier for me. Some of the things that I may have issues with doing, she has a lot of experience at doing those things. She's familiar with the legal aspects. She's familiar with a lot of the paperwork. And she can act as a friend or family member. That is way important. Having that in person, plus with the person being sober, that is very cool. She also let me know some important stuff about her situation, which is important for me to know. And she also says it is about me. It's not about her. She has her support network, so she understands the support network and the importance of it. With me, with the understanding that I have and the training that I have, this is stuff that all police officers are supposed to be trained in. This is something that all nurses and doctors are supposed to be trained in. And there are, of course, legal actions against them if they do wrong things. There's a lot that falls under color of law. And that's what I need to pay the most attention to right now. There's a lot of other things that I've covered, but the color of law, that is very important to pay attention to. That doesn't mean the color of your skin, just so you know. There are certain things that officers like to get away with, and often do. The reason that they do is because they know what they're doing is against the law, but they're just going to feign ignorance in court and get away with it. You, as a civilian, do not have that right. Saying that you are ignorant of the law, what are you told? Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Well, it's apparently an excuse if you're a police officer. And herein lies our problem. These officers may violate our rights with impunity, and provided nobody cares, they can do it over and over and over again until they get used to it. Nobody's rights should be being violated, especially not the most vulnerable of our society, which would be who? Very specifically, homeless, disabled males. If they grew up in foster care, they're even more prone to it. These are the most likely people to be killed by police officers nationwide. These are the people who fill your jails. These are the people who fill your prisons. Well, you let pedophiles out and you drop them off on the streets. 80% of us out here on the streets are out here because we were victimized into homelessness. There's an additional 20% that are various identities, I suppose. Some of them consider themselves travelers. They're still homeless. Now, this lady was telling me that she's willing to pay for me to have an actual address here. Not for rent for a house, but for an actual address for mail to be sent to. That is big. She's willing to help me with the paperwork, and she's good at that kind of stuff. That is very big. She also listened to understand. She also looked some stuff up and read some things so that she's as up to date as she can be on the slander. She was able to recognize it as slander, which is pretty nice. She doesn't exactly have the best situation herself. Who does? Nobody lives in a perfect situation. Ain't no reason to judge, is it? But we all do it, don't we? It's one of the things about having to trust people because you're desperate. When you're in a desperate situation. With me being an at-risk or a disabled adult in an at-risk situation, there are certain things that are supposed to be done by law enforcement and by the hospitals and by the Department of Health and Human Services. And they're supposed to work together to do these things. But when you're a disabled and homeless male, nobody really gives a shit. Nobody has to do their job. If they know you're homeless, they can use that as an excuse to deny you services. For somebody like me who gets overwhelmed, it's really easy for them to talk down over me, like I'm not there, like I'm a dog, like I'm an animal, like I'm an idiot. Now, this lady has her own support network, and I was letting her know about people threatening to kill those who tried to help me and a lot of that stuff. Well, after what she'd read, it's understandable. So I gotta send her a couple of things so that she's aware. And I gotta go in and get permission to do that. I want to make sure that I'm not going to get in trouble for setting up my computer. Before I spend money I don't really have to spend. I should have spent more time panhandling today. But there was stuff that needed to get done. There was errands I needed to run. There was phone calls I needed to make. And damn it, I did what I needed to do to the best of my abilities, given what I have. I got almost a full tank of gas. I got 3/4 of a tank of gas, and I only had a little. It was right at the empty, but basically, I got $17 worth of gas. I got food. I have some more food for later if I need it. Coffee is cheap here. Soda pop is cheap here. I don't need either one, but it's cheap enough for the internet and for a power outlet, and that's what's important here. I don't come here to hang out. I come here to try to de-stress when I'm overwhelmed and try to get some work done and get it sent to somebody that'll help. There's a lot of stuff that I sent out to people that, well, I regret having to do what I did. I don't regret doing the things that I had to do. I regret that I had to do them. With me having a very real risk of life and limb for my friends and family, and it having to come down to dozens of people all at once letting me know about how they're being threatened, how people are threatening to kill them and their friends and their families. That stuff can't be allowed to happen. Those things do need to be investigated. They need to be investigated right away. While Natalie Bollinger's family and I were in contact with each other, I was trying to get the police, and I was pretty sure the police did have access to all of it due to the fact that they got warrants to be able to do exactly that. In order to get those warrants, they had to charge me with felony assault. So they were able to do that by Well, of course, trying to entrap me, separating me and isolating me. They used a couple of Natalie's ex-stepmothers in order to do that. They did the same thing at Candace Bondurant's. Police all across the state of Colorado took part in all sorts of fucked up things. And I needed to get a friend or family member in person to look at evidence and help me turn it in. I tried to explain to him how the mentally ill tag works and how it's less likely to have an effect if you don't have to go in by yourself. How if you go in and your friends know that you're honest, they can explain that you're an honest person. They can explain that you're not prone to hallucinations. But the thing is, none of those people went in with me. So the cops got to treat me like what my predators said was the truth. And it wasn't. And don't get me wrong, there's things that I actually did. Some of the things that I was accused of doing, I actually did. I eventually did threaten people back. I was tired of people threatening me. I was tired of Tim Beeson threatening me. I was tired of Ted Bollinger getting to hold a bunch of people over my head. I was tired of having to be afraid for Alicia Bollinger after fucking Natalie was killed. I was tired of that. And every time people want to tell me that they're afraid of Ted, his own family telling me they're fucking afraid of him, messaging me that they're afraid of him, calling me up and telling me they're afraid of him. And then there's situations like with Natalie's death and her funeral, and him spending all of that money that he got from those GoFundMes to go on vacation. There's both Natalie's ex-stepmothers telling me that I had more of a reaction to her death than he did. That's not surprising. To him, she was just a fuck toy. At my grandma's funeral, Alicia Bollinger had my phone number. Ted Bollinger was on her account on YouTube, trying to get a hold of me and goat me and all sorts of shit, trying to get my phone number. Well, that right there is the red flag that set it off for me. When he didn't have my phone number, but he was on Alicia's account, either Alicia Bollinger was there with him and let him onto her account, or he had done something to her and gotten into her account. In either event, neither one of those are a good thing. That needed to be monitored by the police, and the right thing was done. Myself and Laura Nelson made sure that 911 was called. But Graham, who slept through most of it, was the one who went outside and spoke. What a fucking idiot. Laura Nelson knew more than probably anybody about the situation with Natalie Bollinger. But she didn't speak up because Graham decided that he was going to do it. He did a horrible job, and he misrepresented me and misrepresented the situation. And you can see that on Laura Nelson's face. That's one of the few body cameras that I was able to get. And I was able to get that from Scott DaCosta. And he admitted on more than one occasion, recorded, that Deputy Jordan Anderson did not do the right thing in that situation. Then again, neither did Officer Cody Selhorst. Neither did Deputy Sean Holloway. Sorry, these are all deputies. Scott DaCosta is actually the sheriff of Dual County, Nebraska. Having somebody in this town who understands how my sister needs to feel and does feel and has expressed that she feels. Her fears are very real. The only place she was able to get housing was Chapel, Nebraska. That's scary for me. This lady is going to help me to get an address tomorrow. She's even going to spring the money for it. So I'm going to try to panhandle up enough to pay her back as soon as possible and still be able to do what I need to with my vehicle. I won't have any money to get it legal or anything like that, but I'll have something, you know? I can't just keep living back and forth between these parking lots, though. This is dangerous, it's unsafe, and it's going to get me targeted not just by the police and business owners who own the parking lots, but also other homeless people, people who had a bad day, people who lost a loved one and they just have nothing but hate and rage, and there's nobody to take it out on but me or some other homeless person in front of me. Some of the advice that I often get is to mind my own business. I can't. Are you kidding me? To see an at-risk and disabled adult woman be assaulted in front of me by a man twice her size who brags about killing child molesters and anybody that he doesn't like because they're loopy, he tries to send off, and if they won't do what he wants, this is what he does. This church is supposed to be there to help people, and this guy is punching the most at-risk people who are on that property. He's running that yard like it's a prison yard. Jamie didn't deserve to be punched in the head like that, and she's assaulted a lot, so she screams a lot. She screams a lot about the abuse that she takes. How anybody gets to do it to her whenever they want and nobody listens. None of them hear her no matter how loud she screams. Those are literally the words coming out of her mouth. And she yells at all those people that they let people rape her and they let people beat on her. Yes, she yells at them. Absolutely, she has every right to yell at them. On that property, among all the places that we're told to go, this property run by Christians, run by a church, and their parking lot is being run like a prison yard, except it's co-ed. And you throw in a bunch of at-risk women who have been beaten profusely about the head, who walk over crooked because they've been beaten about their bodies as well, over and over again. People say they'll do something about it, and they never do. The mandated reporters that I go to, they tell me things like, oh, well, you know, I checked with my superiors, and I was told that unless the property owner wants to press charges, there's nothing we can do about it. Are you kidding me? Jamie has no advocate. What she has is that video of that man punching her in the back of the head within the first minute of the video and bragging about killing a man within the first 5 minutes of it. You know what kept him from hitting her again and again and again and again? Was me yelling. Well, there's all these homeless people all complaining that nobody will help them out of their situation. Nobody does anything when they're hit. And all of these people have taken their turn on Jamie. All of them have taken their aggression and their... So every one of them, when somebody else does it, it's their turn to beat on Jamie. So they slink their heads down in shame. Every one of them has done it to her. That video could get her help before she's killed by those people. But also that evidence in my situation can do the same for me and for my people. For my literal brothers and sisters. For my nieces, and if I ever have any of my nephews. These people should all be allowed to live their lives without living in fear of one of these fucking nut jobs coming out of the woodwork and fucking cutting their throats. Or threatening to. With Rebecca Grossnickel Folly, a lot of the stuff that you guys want to pretend like I would do, Rebecca has actually threatened to do those things to people. But she's also a woman, so she can get away with a lot more. She's also in a place of pain and sorrow. She's also a victim of human trafficking. A lot of people are. A lot of my supporters are victims of human trafficking. Or at least they claim to be. I don't fight for each other instead of each one of them screaming out for help just for them, just for them. They promise that they'll help you, but then, of course, they make it all about them. And that makes it difficult for me. Everyone should know what's actually going on. They should know the reality of the situation. Even if the people in that situation are too ashamed to admit it, once it becomes public domain, once it becomes a matter of public scrutiny in a true democratic nation, the people would be educated. Their opinions would mean something because it's not based on one side. It's not based on an assumption. Law enforcement knows who they can target. Their numbers show that 96% of the time their victim is a male. They show that 51% of the time it's a disabled person, that 49% of the time it's a homeless person. The homeless population is only 1/120th the size of the disabled population in the United States of America. That's pretty important to know. We're a gigantic meat grinder, aren't we? Go to work, pay your insurance, go to work, pay your insurance, have kids, drink beer. That's America, and everybody's got to be on meth these days, don't they? Now it's super liberal towards that, isn't it? There's stuff that I'm not so liberal on. I mean, you guys get to hear my opinion on junkies, but then you get to see me out here feeling sorry for them in real life, taking care of them in real life, helping them out in real life, and also having to depend on them in real life. That's the scariest fucking thing right there. When it all comes down to it, they ain't gonna change. Not until they're ready, and that is the truth of it. But they're gonna need some love, and care and attention during that time by somebody who ain't a sucker. But when you're in a desperate situation of your own, you don't necessarily have the time to actually look stuff up and help a brother out, do you? So for me, this lady, I don't believe that she's going to be able to look at 6 years worth of abuse, but I believe she can understand it. The stuff that she was telling me, well, a lot of the stuff that she's saying does come from experience. And a lot of the stuff that she says shows that she understands better than most and that she actually does the research. She actually does read. And that's important too. A lot of people want to do things the lazy way. Oh, Sean, it can't be that bad. And then once they realize it is that bad, it's not until they're pissed off at me and they go, holy shit, Sean was not fucking kidding. Holy shit. One lady I know, she had a panic attack in the corner. She just curled up into a ball and fucking started crying. I'm so sorry, Sean. I'm so sorry, Sean. I'm so sorry, Sean. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, I did that. Oh, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. Joseph Lopez did. You didn't shoot her. You didn't shoot her. Joseph Lopez did. That's one thing about, some people didn't realize that they were as close to this situation as they were. Todd Ryan case, it wasn't until almost 4 years after Natalie was killed that he realized that his barber friend who lost the daughter was Natalie Bollinger's dad. He did know that his sister's last name is Kelly, and they might be related. It turns out, apparently they are. Todd Bryan Case is mad at me because this affected his family and his situation. Well, it affected mine too. There's a lot of people whose stories will never be told. There's also a lot of people who are dead now. And thank goodness I recorded their voices before they died. I was able to record at least part of what they knew, part of what they were aware of. The evidence from when I was not locked up is pretty easy to show, and it shows that I've told the truth. The evidence from when I was locked up is their words versus mine. Their word versus mine, always. But you get to hear from other victims of those very same officers that those officers are doing that to a lot of people. You also got to hear from witnesses like George Helmstetter. He was a witness to one of the assaults in the Boulder County Jail. I was assaulted there repeatedly. Arapahoe County Jail as well. They thought it was fucking hilarious. Every time they'd put me on suicide watch, I think it was hilarious. Make jokes. It was just the creepiest fucking thing. I have a ring on my index finger, or on my ring pinky. Ring finger on my left hand, sorry. That's one of the things about being exhausted and overwhelmed, but also being excited. It affects my ability to effectively communicate and to get my words out as they need to be. Anyway, now I gotta remember where I was at. now. I have like 30 different things going through my head at once. This lady being able to advocate and also having her own support network, so she actually has one. So when she says she doesn't need me to be her support network, she has one. That it's not about her, it's about me. She's not just saying those things, she's also putting into action, listening to me, writing things down. I let her know that the Natalie Bollinger thing is super important. And also the assault at the hospital here is super important. And the way that my rights have been completely diminished is important. She's familiar with ADA from a different perspective legally. But that perspective allows her to understand, because it is the ADA. It allows her to understand a lot of the legal aspects and bullshit that are already involved in it from many points of view. Now, making it about me and my story instead of making it about hers. She let me know everything up front, which is very important. I felt that Meg Mistigatis had done so as well. But about halfway through, it was obvious that was not the case. In a lot of these situations, I wanted to believe that people were going to help me. A lot of them used the right words and said the right things and listened at the very beginning. But later on, as time progressed and they hadn't done anything, and they thought eventually that I would just forget about it. Well, you know, it's tough to forget about people bouncing beer bottles off your head driving down the road. Walking down the road while somebody is throwing beer bottles at you sucks. Having alcoholics that are also registered sex offenders who live across the street from one of your few friends in town, when he comes out into the street to threaten to kill you, and then you have to take this crazy maze route through Chapel, Nebraska, so you don't walk by anybody's house who will be pissed off and offended. Oh my God. Ugh. What should have been a 2 to 3 block walk, depending on which route I took, ended up being about 13 blocks overall, so that I could walk to the post office. It was 2 blocks, 3 blocks, whatever, away from where I was staying. I mean, it wasn't nothing at all. But because of one pedophile who wanted to walk out into the street while drunk and threatened to blow my head off over rumors he heard, and apparently I looked at him while he was in fucking pump and pantry. Oh my God. Poor thing. Holy shit. But I also had to go to Sheriff Scott DaCosta and his deputies to try to turn in Robert Franklin Mornick. This lady is in person. She's sober. She has a good understanding of what I'm going through. And she'll be able to understand the point of view and perspectives of the other victims. This is a very real thing. There's a lot of people through this that should have never been victimized. Candace Bondurant, for one. I used to have a really super big crush on her. I never asked her out on a date, though. I had a crush on her when I was about, I don't know, I was probably 27 or 28. And it wasn't like a crush where I thought she was going to be my girlfriend. I just thought that she was pretty straightforward. I didn't realize what a true coward she was until after Natalie was killed. I knew she was bullheaded, but not cowardly. That was the biggest loss in that whole family. When they lost Chance, they lost the only person in that family that was bullheaded in the right way. Unfortunately, he was a fuckhead. There's a lot of people that didn't like him. I liked him because when he fucked up, he did something to fix it. He fessed up to his shit, which is more than I can say for his sister. Now, I did ask Candace to marry me. When I say that I've never asked a woman out more than once, that's true. But there's one woman that I asked to marry me a whole shit ton, and that was Candace Bondurant. Now, of course, she knew it was a joke. Every time that when she would say something bitchy and sassy, every time she would say something bitchy and sassy for like probably 2 years, I asked her to marry me every time. No, it doesn't mean that I actually wanted to get married to her. And when I say a crush, I don't get a crush like you guys do. For me, it's a matter of connecting with somebody mentally. As far as busting a nut, I don't require another human being for the effort, and it takes me a lot less time. Anyway, you know how we end these videos? Good to be rid of you. Thanks for coming to visit. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper and no victim left behind. You're your sister's keeper too, just so you know.